Shabbat Shalom. Some of you may remember when the Harry Potter books originally came out, that kids would be waiting anxiously for the next one to arrive, and they would stay up reading it all night. That was true for, I remember, Rolly's kids. And like when it would arrive at the, actually you couldn't actually get it in the mail. You had to go to the bookstore. What? You waited in line at Barnes & Noble, and when there were stores in our streets and we didn't have as many empty shops. And that sense of anticipation because the story was so enticing. And you waited with bated breath to find out what would happen next to Harry and Hermione and Ginny and Ron. The same can't be said for the book of Vayikra that we begin this week. It is not filled with grand adventure or unending suspense. But each year as we return to this book and the intricacy of its details, it focuses on many things that there are to learn. And today I'd like to focus on two things that I think it lifts up very powerfully and sometimes are seen as opposing ideas, although they really aren't. If the book is anything, it is a study in high attention to detail, of the nature and order of the sacrifices and of the precision in doing so. Vayikra is primarily, although not exclusively, a ritual book that teaches us that knowing what to do and how to do it with the daily sacrifices, the things for when we are grateful, how we offer, when we have committed a sin, how do you offer that? On Yom Kippur, what is the nature of the ritual then? There is a prescription for everything. We know when, we know how, and we know where. And in the chaos of living, it gives us a playbook of how to get it right, how to have a spiritual discipline, what to rely on, and know we can come back to. So that's one notion of the book of Vayikra. And the second idea is more about one of the psukim that appears in this week's parasha in chapter 1. It says, V'hiktir hakohen et kol hamizbecha ola asher reach nichoach l'Adonai. And the priest shall turn the whole into smoke on the altar as a burnt offering, an offering of fire pleasing to God, to Adonai. The Magid Devarav Yaakov asked the question, what is it that's so pleasing to God? Right? If it's a pleasant odor offered up to God, what does God find so pleasing? And he answers that God's essential pleasure lies in our desire to serve. The Torah teaches in the book of Devarim that your God is a consuming fire, which is actually a very scary image, that God is a consuming fire, but the Magid Devarav Yaakov reads the verse completely differently and says, a God who consumes fire, meaning God's main sustenance and pleasure in the commandments is that our passion and our fire is what makes God so pleased. Essentially, God eats up our passion. That is what is pleasing to God. It turns a scary, fiery God into a God that takes in the fire that we have within. So the ritual aspect of Vayikra on the one hand, which you could call keva in lots of ways, the fixed, the ritual, the discipline, the details, and the fire of Vayikra, which is in the offering up of the sacrifices, which is our service that comes from a very deep place, not a rote place, but our passion and our excitement. I find a little relief in arriving at the book of Vayikra this year with these two messages. We don't have to read an adventure novel to encounter real villains and true evil, sowing chaos and fear. The stories of war, the downfall of the rule of law and democracy, the abduction of people off the streets or university campuses is not the stuff of books anymore. It is the stuff of real life in our time. It is destabilizing. It is infuriating. It is heartbreaking. And it is scary. And so we might want to look to escape with a good book, maybe like Harry Potter, with its magic. But the truth is that the magic and majesty of living is really in the details and the things that we come back to day in and day out, and the passion of living with the fire that we have to offer within. It's the consistent rituals in our life that anchor us. Shabbat matters. Ritual matters. It grounds us. It gives us community. It directs us. It directs us towards each other. If we didn't have Shabbat, we wouldn't be here together. Those fixed things that ask us to anchor in the details of living consistently in community. And it teaches us that in all our imperfection and the imperfections of the world, we can actually get some things right. And this book also teaches us that we are fire, that God wants our passionate service, that we are not only being acted upon, which is the way it feels these days. So much is coming at us, and we feel we're not in control. But the book of Vayikra teaches us that we have some fire to offer, that we, with our fire, can act for what is right and good. Vayikra is calling us in to tell a story that we really need to hear. And like at the beginning of the book, where God welcomes Moshe back to the tabernacle, so too does the book of Vayikra say, come in, come in. I want your consistency, and I want your fire.